Well, hello all. Facebook hates us for some reason, but we will nonetheless proceed on much more on our YouTube stream. I'd like to welcome you all, those watching live, and probably the vast majority of you will be watching the recording on YouTube. But welcome to the release of Convalescence. I'm super excited about getting this book out here. I want to show it off here to the camera for a second. Look at that. Beautiful book. Look at that beautiful book. Just to give you guys a little idea about the agenda here, we're going to start out with just going over some, as you can see on the screen here, we've got We Done Goodly, so I'm going to go over what's gone right for us as far as Sisyphean publications and the book releases. Then I'm going to read through some previous questions. Because of our technical difficulties, I won't be able to field live questions, which is really terrible, so I'm sorry about that. But then we hope to have a guest to kind of pop in and help out, answer some questions that you guys asked previously in the chat. And then lastly, the plan will be to play an audio clip from the book itself, which is done by our very own Dave Driggers. Then we'll yell at Facebook for having weird technical problems with us. But let's go ahead and get started. First, let's take a look at one of our great accolades here is that we have over 11,000 units pushed. That includes downloads, audiobooks, and paperback sales. That is up. It's not quite 1,000 from our last broadcast, but that did knock us over the 11,000 thing. We've gotten more ratings. We're at 165 ratings and reviews on Goodreads and Amazon with an average of 4.51 stars out of 5. I don't know who wouldn't give me 5 stars, but you know, such is life. And as before, I wanted to mention that we had top 10 Amazon rankings for Electric Blues and Hard Science Fiction and Canada. We have top 20 Amazon rankings for Night of Gehenna and Dark Fantasy. We have top 10 Amazon rankings for Even Hell Has Nights and Dark Fantasy. And our website hasn't been hacked in over a year, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that our website does basically nothing. But we are still looking on revamping that at some point. Our future looks bright. We are working, have been working on it for a long time on Encyclopedia of Gehenna. I do want to release that. That'll give you information on characters, on places, just a bit of information there. One of the problems we had is we were trying to do it from the perspective of the infidels, but then we couldn't give you information on certain characters. So it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating. In September, we're going to have the release of Execution, the next Chris book, and then right after that, in October, we have the vampire story. No judging. And then we'll have a December release of Wasteland. So that should be that one's going to be the big one. I can't wait for that. And then after that, I get to go on tour. I'll be going to all kinds of cons. I'll be signing books, doing book clubs and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. We also want to have a thing where you can exchange your email for a free ebook, and we have audio releases of Affliction and Soulfall coming. So that's there. I want to go ahead and transition now really quickly into the question section because our special guest just arrived, and I want to get through my questions in time for them. So the questions in the broadcast, again, I wish I could respond to comments, but life has not been beautiful for us in the tech while, so this will probably be the worst live release that we have. But the questions are, number one, don't lie. I saw you at the pre-screening of Force Awakens. For those of you who know, at the end of Soulfall, there's a father scene moment on a bridge. But my book was released before The Force Awakens. I mentioned that last broadcast, but this is the thing that won't die, I guess, because he's seen me at the pre-screening of Force Awakens, which I wish I could have made it to. I wish I was that cool. Simona asks, will Elsid ever get her own book? Absolutely, Elsid is supposed to get her own book. We already have the intro written and the plot done. It's just a matter of time. I think one of the issues is that when we get our website up all the way, you'll be able to vote for the project that you want to see the most. And then I will, particularly if you vote with a donation, I will work more on that. So, but we do have a Elsid book all prepped, and I just need to get down to doing the right work on there. Tyler asks, how long does your prep planning and brainstorming typically take? Weeks, months, or years? Well, that is so. It's very easy to dodge this question because every book takes a different amount of prep. But I'll try to be more specific. The brainstorming for Even Hell Has Nights was I came up with the idea um, in the year 2005. It came out in 2012. So I guess that was subconscious brainstorming for about 7 years. I did a ton of brainstorming sessions. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, daydreaming about it, hours and hours of pre-planning there. On the other hand, if you take a book like Dust, which is probably the one that we spent the least time brainstorming. That one, I think I came up with a novel idea and fell up in love with it for about an hour. But that's not to say that it was just an hour. For the prepping, you have to sit there and think about each scene. I like to do to stop and think about each scene, unless it's just like unless I automatically know what it's going to be. And then the follow-up question there, once brainstormed, how fast do you typically complete a book? While writing, do you already have an idea of everything you want to be in it, or do you add more as the story as you go on? So this again is a depends question. For the Arcturus series, I have no control over how those books go whatsoever. I start them and I write, and they do their own thing, and there's nothing that I can do about it. Like almost nothing. To give you like the ultimate example of all examples, by the time we finished book 3 and got to March Till Death, the plot had not progressed to the point which I thought would be done in book 1. So I just have no control there. So that adds on its own. For some of the Chris books, after I've come up with the idea, they pretty much go the way that I want them to. This is definitely the case for Affliction. It's harder to say because in Soulfall, our main editor, as you know, gave us an idea for an awesome ending, but that changed the plot line a great bit. So there were a couple extra books. But the Chris books, pretty much, if I know what they're going to be, they're going to be. And this is not the true, actually, with Wasteland, the big one coming at the end of this year. That book kind of did its own thing. I wanted it to be one thing, and it became another, and I just had no choice on it. So, but if you write, that happens to you sometimes. You just have to be open-minded enough to let it take you where it wants to take you. Mark Sarandi asked me a completely unrelated question. He says, what's the ratio of Android to iPhone users you've dated in the last 10 years? I think maybe I'm just drawn to people who like super stable operating systems because it seems to be favoring iPhone. That is not an appropriate question. You're bad. You're bad. Is there a character you thought was going to go one way and then they turned out to go in a different way? Absolutely. The biggest example of this is Molly. I actually wrote Molly to be an absolute terrible human being. She was going to be an example of all that you should not want to be in life. But and I didn't actually realize how she was changing until I had test readers looking over a scene, and a bunch of them wrote back, "Hey, you know, Molly wouldn't kneel here. She's not a weak character like that." And I was like, of course Molly's a weak character like that. But then I looked back on the scenes and found out that a lot of her behavior had a lot to do with just social ostracization, and she came out a sort of a heroic character at the end of that. So those are all the questions for me. I think now we can welcome our special guest, which is sort of a surprise here. We get to have a test reader.
Hello.
And then this is how you look right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And then this is the questions that you can't read because nothing's working today. But I will read them to you.
That's fine.
Off of the thing. Say hey, wave to everybody.
Hello, is that the camera?
That is the camera. And also you should know that we were trying to broadcast live and that didn't really work out so much. So there are like 4 people watching us on YouTube, but and because we were trying to do a Facebook Live thing.
That's
but
exciting. Hello, 4 people.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And they can't talk to you, so they just have this is terrible. This is terrible.
Okay.
All right, but so the first question is, can you talk about some of the suggestions you've made which have improved the books?
Oh, let's see. Well, for Dust, I remember really working at Chris's reactions to various events.
Yeah, Convalescence.
Help me.
Yeah. Dust is where the bad thing happened.
Dust is where the okay, yes. So based on the bad things that happened with Dust, we had to really work on how Chris was going to react in Convalescence.
Yeah.
There were a lot of scenes that were already written that were seemed too happy, seemed to have too much strange humor in there that just didn't work with how his character had altered. So there was a lot of work in fixing his character.
Yeah, that was particularly painful and also weird because he had, you know, in the first draft of Convalescence, he had lost his son, which I kind of thought was going to make him as sad as you could be. But after Dust, he was just way too happy-go-lucky, just by comparison. Even though I had written him really depressed. Another question here: you started as a test reader without having read one of the first books in either series. This question is for me. What's it like to get dropped in the middle of a universe with so many strange concepts, creatures, rules, items, vocabulary, weird demons that follow strange patterns of behavior?
Confusing, to say the least. I mean, you dropped me in at the end of I got dropped in at the end of Soulfall or something?
Right. And so that means you had missed 4 books.
Yeah.
It's only 4 books.
There is an entire history to this that I just do not comprehend. But so it's very confusing every time I sit down and I have to ask, okay, what book is this? Who are these people? But at the same time, I feel like it gives me a different perspective reading your books. Since I don't have the entire world background, I can focus more on what is the character doing in this moment? What is their character portraying in this moment? And I can look a little bit more closely at just how the words are falling on the page without worrying too much about if they're actually furthering the plot or not. So that gives a different grammatical perspective, different characterization perspective. Although I hope I can actually catch up on the books eventually.
Yeah. Quit school. Oh, you graduated.
Yeah, I graduated. Now I need to quit work.
That's my next advice. Number 3, what do you want to see happen for, to, or with Chris in the future novels? What do you want to see him develop into?
Well, I want to see him develop into a happy, developed character, but I don't know if you're going to let that happen.
Well, it is set in hell. It's hard to become self-realized.
It is.
Yeah, when people are trying to torture you. Yeah.
But in the end, yeah, I guess that's all I can say, is that I just want him to get some sort of closure.
Oh, he definitely gets
some
closure.
Sort of happiness.
He gets lots of closure. I don't know, happiness may be the wrong kind of closure. But we'll see. But you guys, actually, the people who are watching this are going to have slightly better information than you because some of the books that they've read are in the future. And they actually know where Chris is going in a way that you don't, even though you've seen Under the Hood.
So even though I see your books before they're even published,
they're still ahead of you.
People know more than me about how his character. That is true. This is why I need to catch up.
All right, guys. Well, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch over to play you guys some audio of the read by Dave Driggers. So you actually get to hear a sample scene from the book, assuming I can find the right buttons here, which I should. Let's see, how hard could it be?
Again, my long shadow traverses a cell, falling this time upon the prisoner's face. His thin frame is curled up into a close approximation of the fetal position. Only the medieval-looking handcuffs Q has bound him with keep his hands behind his back. It's Finn. He's unkempt, his brown hair and wispy beard disheveled. He's shaking, not so much a hyena now. Now he just seems like the cancer Sid said he was. Godslayer? Finn says, and for some reason it seems to me like his voice is hopeful. You've come for me. I'm not sure what to say, so I say nothing. The door slams behind me, and I'm left in nearly complete darkness. A triangle of light, creeping in under the door, makes its way a few inches into our chamber. I kneel in one corner, making the sign of the cross. I don't know why I do it, but I figure it might scare Finn, so I do. Then I sit down, my back to the corner, my legs pulled up. I rest my arms on my knees and bow my head. Keith tried, the man screeches in apology. He tried to resist it. We didn't know. You have to believe me. We didn't know. I look up. Q's right. Something is seriously fucked up with Finn, even compared to how unstable he was after Soulfall. There's no way Keith would use him to scout in this state. We're not like that, he goes on. We don't deal with devils. You know we don't. You think raping is wrong. I know that. I know that. But you're wrong. You're fucking wrong, man. We don't deal with devils ever. We just didn't know. You dealt with Zen, I observe. He was good, Chris. You fucking killed him, but he was good. I feel cold air on the back of my neck. You dealt with another devil? I ask. He twists around, rolling onto his belly. No, never with the devil. No, we don't. Yeah, it was worse. Please forgive me. Absolve me. Save me. Kill it like you killed Zen. Forgive him for what? Working with demons? Giving me to Igraine? Has this man gone completely insane, or has his crew really struck a deal with another devil? Why is it that you think an infidel can offer you absolution? I ask. His eyes go wide. Because you aren't one, not really, we know that. Keith told us all about you, how you knew a blood pass. I remember that conversation, after they captured me when they tried to figure out who I was. Keith had put enough of the puzzle pieces together back then to figure out I couldn't have been an infidel friend. You know what I've killed, I say. His head bobs frantically, his chin banging against the floor hard enough that I worry for his safety. Yes, you killed Zen, the devil reborn. You're more than an angel, you're the God Slayer. I was angry at you, but you didn't do it to hurt us. I stand. I didn't. His eyes are wide. I knew it was true. I knew it. Zen just got in your way. Please. I take a step toward him. I will absolve you. But first, you have to tell me what I want to know. Finn rolls over to his back, laying on his bound hands. We followed you, he shouts, spittle coming out of his mouth. We chased you through the pole and back to Dendra. We followed you through Portsmouth, and then... I know you followed me onto Soulfall. Yes, he shouts. We followed you. It was on Soulfall, waiting for us. We kept trying to go up, but we couldn't. Keith was in hysterics. He knew you'd made it to the second peak, but it didn't matter. There were no stairs up. We felt the darkness getting closer, but we had nothing else to go. And down and down. His eyes are wide, frantic. He's in some kind of fucked up ecstasy, and I can see a boner forming in his pants. Drool spills out from the sides of his mouth, and I long for him to stop speaking because somehow, in some way, I know what he's going to say next. There was something down there, he shouts his confession. I could feel it. It's evil, Godslayer, pure evil. It's not from this hell. It comes from the one beyond, and it's waiting for us. And it was waiting for us, he begins crying. We didn't know. I'm so sorry. The infidels are evil. They are. But they're not evil like devils. We'd help you fight it. We would have. We tried. Too late. My heart is beating madly in my chest. I want to step forward to comfort this man, or to kill this man, or to do something, anything to stop him from talking. Tears form in my eyes, and I can't explain why they're there. Some part of my mind has figured something out, but the words keep spewing out of his mouth. There were things in Soulfall's halls, reflections of our minds. They were all fucked up. They tore into me. They planted seeds in our souls. Keith, he was the only strong one. He kept looking for a way out. There was this room way far down with clear steel windows. You saw it. We could see back to the cliff. We beat on those windows, but they wouldn't give. That place, it was wrong. And we thought we lost Ryan. We did, but then he was there. Finn stops. He's panting fast. He sits up quickly, spittle and tears flying. Then he was there, and we were all hardened, but not Ryan. He seemed calm, distant. Ryan wasn't afraid of anything. We finally found a way up. We made progress. We found a way out. He comes up to his knees. Oh, Godslayer, we were free. We'd left the place behind. Durgan helped us capture you. His voice drops to a whisper, and he suddenly seems terribly sane. We thought we had. We didn't know your power, but it was already with us when we found you, you see. Then the answer hits me like a tsunami. Ryan, I blurt out. His head bobs again, and this time it's the back of his skull which impacts the hard stone floor. Oh, Keith, you poor, stupid bastard. We didn't come back alone. We brought that something with us. It's not from here. It's from the next hell. We could feel its evil. You drove Alec insane. When we looked back across the Great Divide, we saw the clear steel windows. Ryan was still in there. Do you remember? Do you understand? Finn's on his feet now, a toothy grimace of fear plastered across his face, and he shouts at me. Do you understand? You were with us. Ryan was there, behind the glass, left behind. He was beating on the glass, screaming as the dark things took his soul. But Ryan was also next to us. He climbed out with us. Understand? My hands are shaking as I reach out to touch his shoulder. His body trembles like a frightened animal. Do you understand? He shouts. We did something wrong, something so wrong, I didn't mean it, Keith didn't, we just didn't know. I guide him back to the floor, gently bringing him to his knees. I understand. There was a darkness in Soulfall. We all felt it too. His wide eyes sparkled and his mouth is caught in some sort of rictus grin midway between pure joy and absolute terror. After we traded you, Ryan kept changing. He got Igraine's trust. Ryan took us back to the river. Keith tried. He tried to fight it, to keep us sane, but it tortured us. It kept us by the Erebus and laid seeds in us. Keith said you would kill it. He told it that. He told it you were coming for it. The Godslayer, the angel of God sent from heaven to protect Mila, the man who slew the devil reborn. But you don't understand it. It took Ryan's body at first. It was like Ryan, but as the days passed, Ryan changed. You were there, Ryan rotted away, and it was waiting underneath. He goes on about torture on Soulfall, about Keith, about this and that, about how Ryan commanded the evil spirits of the Erebus. I have no idea what parts of his story come from his diseased mind or what parts might be real, but I'm pretty sure of one thing. When Keith's team left Soulfall, they